Yeah, I wanted to read you a little bit of this Columbus Dispatch thing. I don't know how many people saw this, but the Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Ohio State losing 2 in a row to Oregon, and then the environment and how the nation saw it. I think it rattled, Ohio State a little bit.
Yeah, Rob Aller from the Dispatch wrote this column today, and it reads, Ohio State game day atmosphere needs energy boost, better music, and fewer commercials. And, there's a lot of stuff in here, but he writes, the Oregon part I wanted to read, he writes, Oregon presented an almost anything goes vibe that minus the F-bomb chants ending with Ohio State turned Autzen into a tailgate party inside the stadium. Mostly what I picked up on at Oregon was a stadium crowd that doesn't take itself too seriously. That is not to say Duck fans don't want to win, but nervous energy is channeled into a freewheeling response more than the often angst-riddled mood of Ohio State fans in the Horseshoe. Some of that is cultural. Eugene strikes me as a larger Berkeley, California. I was surprised to learn it's at 177,000 population, second largest city in Oregon that actually cares about sports, not just causes. But a larger part has to do with expectations. Ohio State has never experienced a prolonged down cycle. The last time the Buckeyes struggled through consecutive losing seasons was in the 20s. Yeah. The unbroken line of success over generations has spoiled OSU fans into taking winning for granted. Thus, when games like Nebraska get tight, the crowds often are anxious and annoyed when they should be turning the Horseshoe into the horseshoe by screaming their optimism onto the field.
I see what he did there. That's clever.
Well, I think that's right. Yeah. I think that's exactly right.
Sure.
And that I just hope that Oregon never gets that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have heard over the years from some Duck fan that think that Autzen isn't as loud as it used to be, or it goes through ebbs and flows. And, you've heard some criticism that when it's not big games, but dude, I'll tell you what, anyone that was doubting that Oregon still had their fastball, see Ohio State. And the same thing with Husky Stadium. You know how many, my dear friend is a diehard Husky fan. He went there, wife went there, kid went there, bleeds purple. And he even said it, that new Husky Stadium was not the same. And then after the Oregon game, they were like, we're back. And it was like, well, was it not the same as the old one, or were you not that good?
Yeah, exactly.
Because all of a sudden when you're winning and playing for a national title and your rival comes there and you play one of the best games I've ever seen, it felt like old Husky Stadium. So it's twofold, right? You got to have the venue, you got to have passionate fans, and you got to give the fans a reason to get hyped. Now, the spoiled thing, that's an Ohio State thing. Nick Saban talked about that down at Alabama. He goes, my God, we need you to be in your seat, and we need you cheering. And you want to talk about a spoiled fan base, they're like, ho-hum. If it's not like a top 5 matchup, no one down there cares.
Yeah.
And so those are all real factors.
Yeah, I'm hoping that doesn't happen to Oregon. Yeah. But, who was it? Was it Joey the other day that brought up that the chip teams brought a little bit of that?
Absolutely.
Because they were just kicking everybody's ass.
Yep. Yeah, there's the expectation you're going to win everyone by 40, and there's no drama.
And it's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Finks is a former Ohio State defensive lineman, and he said, I will say this again, after attending games at Washington and Oregon, then being at the Shoe today, Buckeye in-game experience is absolutely awful. Fans are disengaged, no one stands up, no one cheers, no energy, students roll in at the end of the first quarter. It's just bad all the way around.
Yeah. And this is the other one I'll say is in-game, what do you call the...
In-game experience?
In-game experience. I don't know who's in charge of that, like what department that is, but...
It's usually game operations.
Game operations.
Game ops.
The people that get it, you can immediately tell when someone is dialed in. When you go see a place, even in professional sports, there is an element to keeping a fan base engaged. And those that do it well, dude, that is worth its weight in gold. And you can go there and you can be entertained because so much of football, let's be honest, remember what is how much actual game time there is, how much
the game, like the ball is actually in plays.
Dude,
like
it's like 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's like 13.
it's seriously, it's just, it's stupid.
It's
low.
less than a quarter of the game.
And so you have to be able to keep people engaged, and little things, again, we'll just take what Oregon does, but even Oregon State, like with the chainsaw, right, on third down, where you get that the buzz, or it never rains at Autzen, or that's another Beaver first down, but the coming home, right, the Matt Kearney song, the shout in the fourth quarter, the pregame stuff that they do, with the motorcycle and all that, and the different video board stuff, and they're constantly doing stuff with the duck. All of that stuff keeps people engaged and lets like what would you say? The guy said they don't take themselves too seriously. It lets people know, hey, you're here to have a good time. It's
about having fun, not just getting wrapped up in the game.
Yeah, there were a couple of Ohio State fans that were sitting behind us when we were at the game, and you could tell they were a little annoyed because some people in front were standing the entire time, and they're like, oh my God, can you sit down for 2 seconds? I need to see the field. I don't want to stand the entire game. And I kind of turned and was like, I hate to tell you this, but I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, and we were 40 rows up and it didn't matter. People were just on their feet, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, he says the last paragraph here says, Ohio State also can't do anything about stadium acoustics. Ohio Stadium is not as bad as Michigan Stadium at allowing noise to escape into the ether, but it also can't match Autzen, where a roof overhang on the press box side of the stadium traps sound, making 55,000 fans sound like 100,000. So that's to your point about
the way it's constructed.
Yeah. So, yeah, kind of interesting.
I guess Minnesota, the Gophers, when they built their stadium, they did something like they did I forget what it was, but the way they built it and the materials they used, they were trying to do something to amplify sound because it's not a very big stadium. They built it on campus and I think it's like maybe 40,000. And I was reading a thing, and this is years ago, and supposedly it's a really cool stadium. It's outdoors, but Minnesota built it knowing that they're not going to have giant crowds, but they wanted it to be as loud as possible. And I guess that went into the thought of the construction of the stadium, which is a smart move.